Hello, and good morning. It is Thursday, April 2nd. Wow, Thursday, yes. Thursday, April 2nd. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. I'm like amazed every day that we're plowing through this year already, Ted. We're done with the first quarter. Like that just happened fast. That escalated quickly in the Trump era.
Fascism always does.
You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, where we bring you way too much information. We just tried out our brand new pre-roll opener there. It needed to run for a good solid 2 minutes so we can get our, with our new Rumble program going and the YouTube feeds and all of that. So if you guys are wondering, like, what is going on with this long placeholder video? That's why we're doing it, so all of the different feeds can sync up and nobody misses the beginning of the show. Because, Ted, some people say this is the best part where you and I are BSing back and forth.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I do think, and we haven't really talked about this because you were sick on Monday, but Robbie and I kind of did it. I think, just sort of like a looser format is better. It's just sort of like more conversational, less radio-y, because it's not a radio show.
It's not a radio show.
It's a fake. When I think about I'm going to be on the radio, it's like it's fake. Really, it's not radio. It's a podcast, really. So
it's a streaming podcast show, like a live. You're watching a live podcast, and we're real people, and we're uncensored here. So that's why I always have to warn everyone that F-bombs do fly here.
They do. I do have to say, although we don't really have to warn them because it's kind of like, it's the internet. That's true everywhere on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, but it should
how the internet be.
Yeah. The internet is a gross verbiage zone. I got to say, you and I are both children of the 80s. I love that. I love that video. Oh my God.
Did you?
It so brings me back to like my.
I made that.
It was like totally like, I remember walking into like a bar on 8th Street and it had a car sticking out of the roof of the bar.
How cool!
And it was like and it had like you walk in the first time and they're like playing Wire and you're like, oh, that's awesome.
Everyone with the Aquanet hair. See, I missed that era.
Spiky hair.
I missed that era. Obviously, I am a a child of the 80s, but because my mom's younger sisters
I kept
who
my 80s clothes and my son's been
that's
rifling through
amazing.
them,
Oh my god, that's
and
am
like, so
ah,
I still have in the original configuration, like the jackets, the jackets with the new wave buttons going down the side, stuff like
that's what I
that.
remember.
And remember the
My mom's
Eurotrash
younger sisters
shirts?
are
The
your age.
the Eurotrash shirts with like the bright colors, like the
It's
like
amazing.
Aha used to
Amazing.
wear, that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Amazing, amazing. I was just obviously too young. The reason I'm interested or I even like that 80s era vibe is because I grew up in a household with because we were the same generation, me and my mom's younger siblings, because my mom's number 2 of 7, and my
Wow.
mom's younger sisters were more like my older sisters than my aunts, and they were, in high school and in the 80s, and as the music trends changed, I would hear everything and I saw what they wore. I saw the lace gloves, cuz obviously this is
Oh
women.
yeah,
The
yeah,
big
yeah.
brooches,
Yep, yep, yep.
like, so I grew up loving
And
that kind of fashion.
a lot of like vintage little handbags from the
Oh
1920s
yeah.
and
Oh,
30s.
so amazing. I love the 80s.
Everyone still smoked, so people had cigarette cases from
That
like
was
the
cool.
19 teens and 20s.
And
Everyone
they
was
had the
vintage
stick.
shopping all
They
the
had the
time.
long stick for the cigarettes. Remember
Oh
that?
yeah, no, I don't know anyone had that. That's a level of pretentiousness that nobody I
That's the
knew had.
California 80s hipster that I remember my
The cigarette holder?
friends, yeah, had the long stick and
Huh.
they'd bite on it, and I thought that was so cool. But,
Huh.
I was a little kid, but
Well,
that's the vibe I was
they are
going for when
cool,
I made
those
this video.
things. I mean, when as a someone who hates smoking and was happy, I would love to have it banned. I still have to. I've always thought that smoking accessories were super cool, like my dad's Zippo lighter from World War
Oh, yeah.
II, and like a lot of the ashtrays, the vintage ashtrays, are amazing.
They're works of art.
They are. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Works of art. They're
Cigarette
blown
girls, be
glass.
sexy and cute.
Oh man, that's the vibe I was aiming for with this video pre-roll, that I'm trying to get my video editing prowess back up to speed because, when I was a fancy anchor, I had a whole team that did that for me. I don't have to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Well, those days
I'm
may
going, how do I
return.
do that?
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm not so sure about that.
Oh, I'm not
Not
sure
not
either.
at this rate with the war back and forth and Trump now being like, "Oh, I kind of like Zelensky. Pootie, why are you being mean to him?" Like this is just a cluster F, and I'm going to say it. Me and Mark Sloboda, we don't expect it to grind to a sudden
Yeah,
halt.
right now things
End of the year.
are looking like you guys were right and that I was wrong. But
Because
I'm not.
you're so
It's not
optimistic.
sure. Well, I'm just no. I mean, I try not to be. Optimism is fool's gold. But
Yes, it will kill you, Ted.
no, optimism is bad for you for sure. I mean, people commit suicide due to optimism. Pessimists don't
Yeah.
need to commit suicide. But
I accept the futility. So
no, but
once
I
you
mean, it's
accept
like,
it, you're
but
just
I
kind of
don't,
like, it's
I
fine.
try to analyze things the way they look. I still think my instinct still tells me, my pride and recognition tells me this war is going to come to an end sooner rather than later. But we'll see.
I don't know.
I think
Me
this
and
is
Mark
just
Sloboda.
Trump's posturing.
Mark and Manila say maybe the
Eminem.
start of Q4. We're in Q2 now, so I'm going to say the start of Q4. That's where Mark and I have been for a long time. I'm with Sloboda.
Yeah, I think we're going to be. I think I foolishly said a month. That's definitely wrong. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I have do over? Like
No do-overs. Like we put in our bets.
frig.
Although we're not gambling on this show, let me just say, because we're on YouTube. But
Right.
as a figure of speech, we
Right.
put our bets down, and I'm going with Q4. Ted said
What would be the
this would be
bet
next
if we
month.
did have a bet, which we're not having? Oh,
I
it
don't
would be a
know.
good
We'd have
bet.
to think about that. But as a
Loser
figure of
has to
speech,
host
I bet
solo
you
for a couple of days.
that it would be hard. Let me say, if I had to, because well, if you had to do it too, I have more experience pushing the buttons now.
That's true. Although I
It
did,
would be
as
harder
you
for
know,
you.
when I'm on with Robbie, I push the buttons. So I don't do nearly
Yeah,
as good a
yeah,
job as you do.
but then you have Robbie to talk to if you're
That's true.
hosting
It's not pushing
solo.
the buttons that's really the issue. It's for me,
It's
it's keeping the needle moving. You know.
Yeah, and that's
Mhm,
hard to do, but I couldn't there's no way you could it's hard to do this by yourself. Anyway,
mhm.
with that said, again, I'm Manila Chan, that's Ted Rall. We're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And we will actually have to get to some news because we have
Let's do
a
it.
a guest at the half hour
And
mark.
I know, and you wisely said that let's just do four, but I really let's race through these because there's a fifth
Yeah,
headline I really feel like we should do if we have time.
yeah.
All right, so let's
Okay.
go.
So, all right. Let's jump to the jaws.
So, yes, so here's what's going on. Democrats and Republicans in the House of Representatives were joined yesterday to force a full floor vote on a bipartisan measure which would allow members of the House of Representatives who have newborn babies to proxy vote for their first 12 weeks that their parents. This is in opposition to Speaker Mike Johnson, who doesn't like this idea. The attempt to block proxy voting fell short when Democrats and Republicans came together to say, yeah, if we have a newborn, we don't want to have to come to work. 9 Republicans joined with all the Democrats. They voted 206 to 222. The effort is led by Representatives Anna Paulina Luna, a Republican from Florida. She gave birth 2 years ago, and Brittany Peterson, a Colorado Democrat who also had a baby while serving in office. Johnson says it's unconstitutional. The Louisiana Republican called the failed vote disappointing. If passed, the actual bill, because bear in mind this is just about bringing it to the floor, would allow a member of the House who's a mom or a dad of a newborn baby to give their voting privilege to Clovis, my cat. No, to a fellow member on Capitol Hill. We haven't lost that much democracy yet, so that they can cast their vote for them. So it's proxy voting.
I got a lot to
I'm
say about that.
inclined to agree with Speaker Johnson. I believe it is
What?
I believe it's unconstitutional. I think that
Okay.
you would need a constitutional amendment. I think it's a good idea. I just think it's unconstitutional.
Well, I can agree with you on that part that perhaps based on the antiquated, though mostly writing of the Constitution on the subject of this particular matter, I can't believe I'm agreeing with this woman, with Anna Paulina Luna, who's, can be a bit
Appropriately named.
lunatic-y. But I agree with her on this and all of the Democrats. Look, when the Constitution was written, not only were women not allowed to vote, Ted, much less be in Congress.
Right.
So it does not work with the modern America.
And
Secondly,
parenting was really considered like women's work at the
totally.
time. Right.
And what pisses me off more about Speaker Johnson is this douchebag used it for many months. He did proxy voting during COVID. Okay, everybody did proxy voting during COVID because the 105-year-old dinosaurs that we have pushing the buttons of yay or nay. They can't come to Capitol Hill like during the midst of
Well,
a
they didn't have
pandemic.
someone else vote for them, though, right? I think that's the issue.
No, they did. They had proxy voting during COVID.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So I don't understand that.
So exactly my point is Speaker Johnson is being a big effing hypocrite. That little is that when it comes to this primarily affects women, right? So I'm not. This is a women's rights thing, and when we are having a population decline as it is, right?
No,
And
I would have when my kid was a newborn, I would have paid money to not be allowed to stay home. I would have been like,
well, that's
I
up
would have
to
a lot of
the
money.
individual parent, right?
Yeah.
For a parent like me, if I were on, in Congress, I would be so pissed that this was not a part of my parental leave package. Like this, if you're afforded 12 weeks parental leave in your job, whatever your job may be, and if it can be done
Oh, I disagree
remotely,
with that. No parental leave for congressmen. Sorry.
if it
Don't
can
have
be
kids
done,
then.
if your job can be done remotely, which during COVID, it was proven that many, many, many jobs can be done remotely.
That's true.
I think you're only allowing this exception to a small minority of people who are in Congress.
I don't
It
think
is a
that they.
small
I don't know.
minority.
I mean, I'm sorry. I think it's like, you know, if you're a member, of the House of Representatives, you should be. You don't get any time off. Sorry, you don't even get vacation. Like, forget it. No.
I think they can. When it comes to new parents and new babies, I don't think it should be, especially a woman, should be forced to decide to either pick their career as a congresswoman or their families. I don't think that's a fair choice because it's not the same for mothers and fathers. As a dad, okay, maybe you can pick up and go pull a lever, fly to Washington for a day or two, pull a lever and then come home or not come home, as you
I
say,
would,
Ted. It's not the same for a
I'd be
mom.
asking the speaker, like, hey, can you please call 24-hour sessions? I'd like to stay here
I
in the
want to I
chamber.
want to sit here and listen to Cory Booker's 25-hour
Absolutely,
floor
absolutely.
speech
That like,
because I got a crying newborn. But anyway, I can't believe I'm agreeing with all the Democrats and Anna Paulina Luna,
well, I have to agree with you, obviously. I
where
mean,
it's
I see the
antiquated.
it's but yeah, you're right. All right, let's keep
It's
going.
antiquated.
All right.
If they need to vote on that to make a constitutional amendment to this is something that
Yeah,
I would agree with
I
all of the
think, and
Democrats.
I think it should. Yeah, I agree with you. All right.
I can't believe
The
I'm saying that.
Department of Corrections here in New York says that it's planning to release a lot of prisoners due to a prison strike here in New York. Corrections officers began striking in February over forced overtime and bad working conditions, blaming a 2022 state law for the fact that things are getting worse. The strike finished last month, but the prison system is lurching from one crisis to another. In view of the staffing crisis, and in order to have the appropriate balance between the safety and well-being of those working and residing in DOCCS correctional facilities and public safety, I, as commissioner, should exercise my authority to move individuals from the department's general confinement facilities into residential treatment out-count status, whatever that means. Commissioner Daniel Martuscello III wrote in his memo. Those guilty of Class BE violent felonies, sex offenses, and an array of other crimes will not be eligible for release, but Martuscello said that he does expect a large number of inmates to qualify and be released. Deadline is April 4th, that's Friday, for superintendents in the prison system to submit their first list of releases. Those releases will apply to people who have fewer than 110 days left until they would have been released anyway and have an approved residence to go to. They must first report to a parole officer within 24 hours of release. Look, it all depends.
Fill
right?
me in here because I don't know what's going on in New York.
Well, okay, so it depends, right? So Rikers Island is the city jail lockup, the main one. There's several.
Yeah.
And that's been a catastrophe for years. The system has completely broken down. There's basically no supervision from corrections officers due to short staffing in many parts of the jail. It's a vast, sprawling complex. It has tens of thousands of people in it, and it's many of them of the sections of the jail are run by gangs, including like the medical and food systems. So it's extremely dangerous. People die in custody all the time while awaiting trial. Most of the people in there are awaiting trial, totally in violation of their constitutional rights, where they're supposed to be able to get indicted within 24 hours. That doesn't happen. And there's just warehouse because the courts are so backed up. So anyway, it's a catastrophe. The corrections officers union, is encouraging people not even to apply for the jobs. Basically they can't recruit no one wants to work for the corrections department. It's so incredibly dangerous and depressing, and it's an impossible situation. So basically, yeah, they should really release most of these people. There are people in there for like really stupid shit, like pissing in the street and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And like, so
but I think it's less, the story's less about the inmates themselves. I mean, I would agree with you. There's a lot of people stuck in jail or prison for dumb shit. But what is the complaint from the correctional officers?
Well, they're short staffed, so they don't have the resources to deal, and they don't have
they're
enough resources.
Forced to overtime?
Yeah, and they can't keep themselves safe, right? Like they can't,
God.
like in other words, there's not enough of them. If something goes down, for them to be able to regain, control of the situation. And
I
they
mean,
can't.
like
A lot
this
of them,
that we're
believe it or
seeing on
not,
screen.
some corrections officers, and you know me, I'm not exactly a fan.
There's a woman in there. There's a
I'm
woman.
not really a
I mean,
fan of
geez.
the man, but I got to tell you, a lot of corrections officers actually are very upset at the conditions in which the prisoners are being kept, both because they care about the prisoners and don't want that to happen, and also because those conditions lead to, prison revolts and violence and tension. I mean, corrections officers tend to prefer happy inmates, because they're easier to control. So, that's why this whole thing is completely, it's broke. It's completely, it's a collapsed system. Way too many people are in custody. I mean,
We lock up way
obviously
too
the
many
crime
people.
street crime is out of control. That's why so many people are in custody. The
Sure.
courts are completely backed up. That's part of it. I mean, it's just like, it's just a
The
catastrophe.
whole system's just fucking broken. The whole thing. The
And
whole
the,
thing.
and the
Top to
facilities
bottom.
are antiquated, and
The whole
not,
thing.
nobody, just really nobody gives a shit about the
Yeah.
prisons, about inmates, or really about corrections officers. Nobody cares.
That's terrible, especially for people that are actually doing the job. I know a lot of them are scummy, but there's also a lot of them that are normal, nice, regular
Some.
people.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a hodgepodge. I mean, it's kind of
like any
surprising
population.
when you do a dive into this, how many of those people are not scumbags. Now, that's not like
Right.
ICE people. ICE people are all scumbags. But like,
I don't know any ICE.
but like, no, if you work for ICE, you don't even deserve love. You don't deserve sex. You don't deserve food. You should just die. But like,
You should be made a eunuch.
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Like, just go away. Like, leave the country. No one needs you. We all hate you. Okay.
Well, if you're the dirtbag that's stalking college students and nabbing them, like if you're that person, like
you're
and you proclaim to be a good
you're
person,
roughing
find
up
another
college
job.
professors and scientists. Yeah.
Find another job, I would say, if you're a good person.
Gestapo. But like, a lot of corrections officers are not like that. They really, I mean, I would never apply for this job. I mean,
oh no,
I'd sooner be a cop, and I would not be a cop.
My husband, after he got out of the military, there, before, I think this is before he took up the GI Bill and did any formal education. He was briefly a corrections officer. So I've heard
oh wow,
he what he said he saw was that's what encouraged him to take up the GI Bill and use it.
really?
Yeah. He said that I didn't want this for my life, and I used the GI Bill, and the rest is history. But that's what he did after he got out of the military, after like 8 or 10 years. He was like,
let's keep
I don't want
going.
to be here. Don't want to do this.
America's favorite first son, Hunter Biden, is giving up.
Love him.
Giving up. He's so cute. Giving up his law license in D.C., according to an affidavit unsealed by the Board on Professional Responsibility. The license was suspended last June after he was convicted of 3 felonies in Delaware, but he was pardoned in December. So I kind of think I don't see why he has to give up his license. Anyway,
he could stay technically because he's
technically
pardoned?
an attorney, although he doesn't practice. But he was an attorney since 2007. The board recommended that the Court of Appeals, which has the final say on all this, agrees to Biden's consent to disbarment. So in other words, Biden said it's okay, you can take it away. And so,
okay,
no
one's
arguing
something up for me. Clear something up for me, Ted. So I get it. Hunter was on the chopping block of losing his law license, of being disbarred when he was convicted of those crimes and those felonies. But then Daddy gave him this pardon. So a pardon, what, just wipes the slate clean, right? Is that what that is?
I guess not, right? The pardon means, I mean, actually, not at all, right? The pardon means that you have to concede, you have to admit guilt. That's one of the problems with a pardon. And there are some people who are really hardcore who are like, I'm not going to admit that I did something that I didn't do.
Right.
So, so those people, they, so like they'll just be like, refuse it. So the point is that like it doesn't wipe the slate clean. You're admitting guilt, but you're just not being punished. That's what a pardon means. So from the standpoint of a law license, which is about like ethical behavior or lack thereof. It's basically, it's like Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton lost his law license.
Oh,
Also.
did he? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like I
Oh,
think, I don't know if it was permanent or not, but I mean, it's kind of purely symbolic. I mean, like I still have my taxi license when I used to drive a taxi, and
You have to be licensed for that?
Oh, are you kidding?
Oh.
It's a very hard license to get. No, you
Oh,
have
I
to
didn't
be
know that.
in New York. You have to be licensed to drive a truck in order to, like a semi, in order to get a
Oh,
taxi
yeah.
license. It's a class 4 permit. I don't know if they've changed it. That's how it
Oh,
used to be. And
interesting.
then after that, you had to pass the hack license test, which again, I don't know if they've made it easier. I assume they have, because they made Harvard easier. But like
Yeah,
everything's easier. But like, you had to know New York City backwards and forwards, and it's kind of funny because you kind of don't have to now. They have GPS, but like we had to know everything. Like, oh, there's a church on East 11th Street. You can't. The 11th Street doesn't go all the way through. You have to go around. I mean, it's
Oh,
just like stuff like that.
weird. Okay,
And you
well,
had to know the name of a obscure little park that's big enough for like 20 people to stand in, like in Staten Island. And it's like
well,
no one ever
Ted,
says to take me
Ted,
to Marcus Garvey Park. I mean, that's in Harlem, but nobody
but
tells you that ever.
aren't we concerned now for the well-being of this young buck, this young man,
Not so
Hunter
young
Biden?
anymore.
Yeah, I know, but his family, obviously, the country, the left side of the media, and his own parents treat him. I mean, this is a 55-year-old man, and they treated him with kid
Yeah.
gloves.
Yeah. If you
Like,
ever wonder like what the term man boy is, look at this guy, man
what?
child. Well,
What's he gonna do?
Joe's a man child too. I mean, he really is.
Papa Joe?
Yeah, he's a man child. I mean, he's like emotionally a child. He's like
Maybe.
he's like, amen, amen. With like no accepting of responsibility.
Oh, that's kind of true. Yeah. I'm curious to know, now that the Bidens are out of office and Hunter is disbarred. Like, well, what?
Well,
Oh, you know what? I
there's
forgot he
always
has a
work in
successful
Ukraine.
art business.
The art business tanked ever since Biden left. It's such an interesting coincidence. Such a
Oh,
coincidence. I mean, obviously,
oh,
it's so weird how the art market for Hunter's work collapsed on January 19th of this year, which I think it's a remarkable coincidence.
what a coincidence. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry to see. I never made it to a gallery show, Ted.
Well, it's not
Darn.
too late. All right, let's keep going. I Val Kilmer, the actor who tasted leading man stardom as Jim Morrison in Batman, but whose protean gifts and elusive personality also made him a high-profile supporting actor, has died. He was 65 years old. It was pneumonia. He had throat cancer back in 2014, but later recovered, but he lost his voice. He was cast as a rocker a bunch of times early on in his career. When he seemed destined for blockbuster success, he made a bunch of movies. The Cold War spy movie spoof Top Secret, 1984. Highly recommend you not to watch that. It's terrible. He of course played Jim Morrison in The Doors. The movie sucks, but his performance is amazing. He's in True Romance, playing the role of kind of an Elvis Presley kind of guy. True Romance is totally great, and it's a Quentin Tarantino movie directed by Tony Scott. Well, everyone should see that. He is top billing in Thunderheart, which is kind of a really dumb movie about like an Indian FBI agent investigating a murder on an Indian res. In The Saint, he's like a thief who plays cat and mouse with the Russian mafia. Worth seeing, but not good. Probably best seen drunk. He's also in Batman Forever. That blows. Do not ever see
Yeah,
that.
that's
And
true.
of course, most recently, and most notably, the most recent Top Gun movie, in
Yeah.
which they call it a cameo, but it's a real role, and he can't
Yeah.
talk, and it's kind of amazing that he was
They
cast.
AI'd his voice.
But I mean, the truth is he was. I mean, you can't take your eyes off him. He's really like, you could tell he was dying. That role reminded me a little bit of John Wayne's last movie, The Shootist, which I believe is 1976. He was dying of lung cancer, and he
Oh.
plays a guy who's like dying of lung cancer, and it's like kind of an amazing
Oh,
performance. It's just like highly recommended. It's like one of the best westerns period ever made. It's basically about like how the old west is modernizing, like during the setting, it's like the early 1900s, and they're bringing electricity, and all the old
wow.
ways of the old west are going away, and he's like one of the last gunslingers, and he has some like outstanding, let's just say not financial, but he has some debts that have to be paid up. It's a fucking amazing
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
This
it
character
was
here,
not
we're watching
this
it right there.
Top Gun 2 is not like that, but
It's all right,
but
but
it's but
it's
his
fun.
performance reminded me of John Wayne in The Shootist. That's the highest praise I can give. Val Kilmer was like one of those guys, you were always happy when he was in the movie to see him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so he just
And
got
they
that.
say
He's
he was
got the it
a
factor.
method actor.
Right.
They
And
say
then
he was kind of a pain in the ass on set,
by
but
all accounts, he was a
yeah,
difficult person to work with.
yeah.
And
But
finally,
what a sad ending.
I love this story. So Mike Waltz, who's the inexplicably still the national security advisor under Trump, you might recall, of course, that he was caught sending top secret war plans to other douchebags and accidentally to the editor of The Atlantic via Signal, the app on your phone. Well, now it turns out he's also been conducting government business over his personal Gmail account, like a complete twat. So he used this to talk about sensitive military positions and weapons systems, about an ongoing
Not
conflict. Gee,
smart.
I wonder which one.
Not smart.
And anyway, so he had info sent to his Gmail, like his schedule and other work documents, according to officials. The official said that he copied and pasted from his schedule into Signal to coordinate meetings and discussions. So, I mean, he may be, as you said in our private chat, which was not on Signal, before the show, Manila, he may be the stupidest person in Washington, D.C. And that's saying a great deal.
Yeah. That's look, for a guy that spent
What's next? Is he using passenger pigeons? I mean,
for a guy, no, he's just gonna send messages via billboard, just electric
billboard.
billboard.
Sure.
Just
Why not?
drive around on those trucks with the billboards on the side.
Sure.
He's just
Like
gonna
the
be like,
doxing truck.
President Trump, I got a message from Benjamin Netanyahu about
Or the beach planes, with the ad.
the banners in the back just flying over Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Look, so I you and I have said this. I know people screw up, and I do believe people deserve a second chance, but
Guess
on this
what? This was
scale,
his second chance.
I
That was his
know,
second chance.
and that's it. On this scale, this is a huge embarrassment to any administration. I don't care that it's Trump. I don't care that it's Mike Waltz. If it was anybody, I don't care if it was Biden's administration or Obama's administration, you have your national security advisor doing unnationally secure things twice in a row.
And
Twice.
there's more. And it's not one time either.
Oh my
This
God.
is a habit of his. He should be gone.
What an
I mean,
embarrassment.
and the Republican brand used to be that they were the national security party, right? So
What
it's
an
like,
embarrassment.
Trump should fire him.
If Mr. Waltz had any sense of pride and
He
dignity,
just
he should
resigned
be like, I'm gonna step down. I'm
for the
bringing
good
too
of
much
the
heat.
administration.
Yeah, I'm bringing too much heat onto the administration. Like, I screwed up twice in a row. My bad. Let me tuck tail and go into the private sector, which he'll end up being a multimillionaire lobbyist after this, right? Like, he'll never have to work a day in his life ever again.
Sure.
Now that he's gotten this far, he's been a congressman.
Fox News analyst, whatever. Yeah.
He was there. He was a Fox News analyst before he became a congressman. So that said, also it highlights the hypocrisy of how he has spent many, many hours on TV trashing Hillary Clinton over her servers in the bathrooms or whatever, which she deserves. I get it. She deserves.
Yeah.
But he's the national security advisor sending, like, okay, maybe even if it's not top secret, it's his schedule or whatever, but he shouldn't be
Yeah, she was
communicating on
Secretary
Gmail.
of State, which is not quite as secure a position as his.
No, this is dumb. This is super, super dumb. And if he had any kind of
They're
dignity,
shameless shitheads is what they are.
he should just go away. It's yeah, you should have some
It's a
shame.
fucking embarrassment. I'm really curious where Trump's going to come down on this. I think this could go either way, 50-50. He's got to
Ugh.
be kind of like, I don't know. I mean,
He needs to get a pulse on the Oval Office and get ahead of it and tuck tail and
also,
say
if
goodbye.
someone's that fucking stupid, how can you trust their judgment? I mean,
Right. That's another matter. So, there you go. That's the
all right. All right,
the
let's go
Trump
ahead and
circus.
bring
All
in
right. So
our
let's
guest.
switch gears. We're going to bring in our guest to talk about some of the other Trump actions that, you know, a lot there's stuff happening at breakneck lightning speed. So we'll tell you what it is on the
Mhm.
other side of this.
All right, so please forgive me. I'm going to do my best here on the pronunciation front. Dr. Gloria Esoimeme is an internal medicine physician with a master's in global health and a PhD in health services policy and administration. With her distinguished academic background and experience living in Nigeria, the US, and the UAE, she equips women with the skills to lead, negotiate, and succeed. Sorry. As a
Bless you.
consultant, it's the allergies are starting. As a consultant, she helps individuals and organizations break barriers, build confidence, and achieve lasting success. Through her podcast, workshops, and keynote speakers, she shares expert insights, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to empower women in every aspect of life. Dr. Esoimeme, thank you so much for joining us here on the TMI Show.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Manila.
Hello. Can we call you Dr. Gloria?
You can.
Okay. Thank you for that. So first up, we have to talk about, well, obviously you became an MD. You would be a good example of a woman's success story, right? Being an immigrant to the U.S. Here you are, an MD, and now you want to coach women, which is outside of the field of internal medicine. That's what you're, the kind of doctor that you are. Why did you want to make that switch?
I won't describe it as a switch. I do both. I don't think I can ever stop being a doctor. It's because I grew up in Nigeria, and from high school you jump right into med school. Unlike the
Oh,
US,
wow.
yes, unlike the US where you have to do 4 years of undergrad and then med school. So right from when you're not even an adult, you're trained to be a doctor. So I don't think I can
Wow.
ever know how not to be one, since all of my adult life I've been a doctor. So
Wow.
I still see patients. I work in a rural area in Albany, Georgia. I work 3 days a week. It's full time, but I see patients 3 days a week, and then I have my my Thursday, Fridays, and weekends for more other creative stuff.
And what made you want to venture into this? I mean, the
Mhm.
success coaching, what do you think women in particular need to think about right now as we were just talking about Donald Trump, his
Yeah,
administration. What do you think a lot of women need to consider at this time, given that there is a lot of backlash against woke agenda, what they call woke agendas, what they would say is a professional DEI rollback.
yeah,
How do you think the women that are looking up to you for advice, what do they need to consider professionally when
right.
they're now graduating university or graduating medical school or whatever, wherever it is, they're going out into the workforce, and it's a different place than the professional age when you and I came of that professional age.
So there's two ways to look at DEI. There's the lens from the individual, like me, you, we're looking for a job, we're trying to move up. There's also the lens from the institution, right? So the people who are employing, they are the ones who are kind of reaching out and say, hey, come be at the table. But from the other end, we're pursuing excellence. We're trying to qualify for the jobs. We're not trying to say, oh, I'm not qualified, please give me a role. It's I'm qualified, give me a seat at the table. So the difference now is maybe before they would have an organization where maybe there are all male. They'll say, okay, we need some females here. And then they start to reach out to women to say, you come to, there was that invitation to come to the table. Or they say, we need a Black person here. And then they are reaching out, trying to make the whole community more diverse. I still have some reservations about that because there might be an invitation to diversity, but inclusion is not really there. It was never there. They have like, you have people come to the table to a mix that's not really a good fit for them, and they never feel included. So that's on the other end. But but like I said earlier, the difference is that now women have to be more proactive to get those roles, because no one's going to be like, oh, we have 10 males here, we need one woman. They're fine with the whole system now. It's fine just having 10 men, or just having where having situations where there's no racial diversity. So that's the difference. Now you have to reach out. We as women, we have to reach out more and ask for those roles.
Doctor, how widespread are these changes? Right? I mean, the new administration's only been in office for less than 3 months, and obviously they can have an impact on the government with executive orders. But private institutions and corporations, especially those that don't have federal contracts or relationships, they can still do whatever they want.